Hi, it's December. What should we all read in December? Hi, I'm Kelly and I talk about books and writing, and today I'm just going to talk about what I'm going to read in December. And my December TBR is always a little bit weird because, one, I'm very busy decking these halls, and I have a child whose birthday is December 21st, so I'm also very busy making sure she feels like well celebrated 4 days before Christmas. And it doesn't lend itself a ton to reading time, especially because this year I have to work a lot this month. Usually I take December off from all writing, but it's not going to work out with my deadline situation I have going on, which is fine. I'm going to take off January instead, which will actually probably be pretty nice because I won't have a bunch of other stuff going on. So my TBR is kind of a mix of really holiday things and then some normal things sprinkled in. So I'm going to start by telling you what I'm already reading because I am filming this on December 3rd and I know I won't post this before maybe the 5th. So I've already started reading some things this month. First off, I started The Light Breakers in November. This one's by Aja Gabel. This was my book of the month pick for November. And I read 124 pages of it last month. And then I did set it down and read quite a few other things. Here's the thing about this book. I don't know if I'm going to finish it, and it's not because I don't like the book. I actually think the writing is really good, and I think it's a pretty cool plot. But I am just feeling a little bit emotional right now in my life, and it's the holidays, and I'm middle-aged, so that's not that odd. And I feel like maybe a book about a man who lost a child and is having a really hard time getting over it and is about grief might not be like the right read for me right now or ever. So I'm just going to kind of see how I feel. I mean, there is a chance when I'm doing my wrap up at the end of the month that I finished this and I loved it, but there's also a chance that I didn't pick it up again. And so I'm just not really sure where I'm going to sit yet with it. But I do really like the writing, and I think it's a cool concept of being able to live in your memories of the past, which is basically where this book takes us through a very scientific sci-fi bend and how we deal with grief as humans. But that's really heavy, and I don't know if I'm up to the task at the moment. The other book that I'm reading is completely different, and it's been a lovely 2 days in which I've read 200 pages, and it's Winter Stroll by Ellen Hildebrand. This is the second book in her, I think it's called the Winter Street series or maybe the Winter series. The first one was Winter Street. There's 4, it's a quartet. This is about the Quinn family. Their father owns an inn in Nantucket, and he has 4 adult children, and it's about the drama of this family. I loved Winter Street. I read it 2 years ago. I didn't read one of these last winter because I had read a lot of Ellen Hildebrand that year, and I was kind of like Ellen Hildebrand outed. And so I didn't read a Christmas one last year, but I thought this would be a good year to pick it up. And honestly, I've been flying through it. This is way more dramatic than a normal Ellen Hildebrand. Like, these people are behaving so badly, but because of that, I'm sort of just flying through it. It almost feels like reading the trashy TV or something like that. I'm liking it though. I'm going to be honest. There's a very good chance I'm going to finish it tonight because I think I only have 60 pages left, and it's just light and easy and breezy. And that's what I want right now. It's helping me, especially since I'm working quite hard on some sort of emotional writing right now. And so next, I haven't decided yet, read the next book in the series, The Winter Storms by Ellen Hildebrand. I can't decide. I do know that when I finished Winter Street, I did immediately want to read Winter Stroll, but I didn't own it. I got these all at like used book sales over the last few years. And Winter Stroll was actually the last one I found. I found it, I think, this September. And so I didn't have that immediate gratification that I could just go over. I have Winter Storms, and I didn't bring it down. But upstairs, I do have Winter Solstice, the last book in the series. So there is a possibility that I could just read all of these this month. I don't think I will because I'm not usually the type of person who binges a series. I haven't ever been that type of person. I always read other books in between. So I wouldn't be opposed to reading Winter Storms because I'll still have one more book for next year, but I'm not sure. So this is a soft maybe. Now we're going to talk about 3 books that have nothing to do with the holidays, and then I will jump back into some other holiday reads. The The first being The Mermaid Chair by Sue Monk Kidd. I put this on my TBR for November and did not get to it. I did not read a ton in November. November and December, they've been really, really busy writing months. Starting in mid-October to mid-November, I wrote an entire new book of a new series, which was super exciting. And obviously it needs a lot of editing, but it was one of those times where you sometimes just like furiously write. And so I furiously wrote the first book in a new series. And now I'm working very hard on some edits for the last book in The Witches of Star Island. And so my time has been really monopolized by work, to the point that usually I don't like to work at night. I try to be very present when like my kids have gone to bed and my husband and I can just talk, or even just sit next to each other and consume a show. And I feel like I've been working most nights. So because of that, a lot of the books on my TBR didn't get read, including The Mermaid Chair by Sue Monk Kidd. I really want to read this book. And I do think when you see the other titles that I have picked out, that this may be a good choice, because it's very different than everything else. This is a magical realism. I don't know much about it. I don't really want to know much about it before I start reading it. The only book I read by Sue Monk Kidd was The Book of Longings, and I absolutely adored it and cried for like an hour when I finished it. And so I would love maybe something like that in December. Next, I have Rules for Heiresses by Amelie Howard. I've never read an Amelie Howard. I got this at my town's used book sale from the stack of romance novels. For $2, which sounded like what I wanted. It's quoted on the back by Kerrigan Byrne, who I've liked some of her books, and Eliza Knight, who I have not read, and Lisa Kleypas on the cover, who is, the queen of historical Regency romance. As I said, have a lot going on this month, and so I'm going to want stuff that's easy to unwind with at night, like the Ellen Hildebrands, like some historical romance. So that's the main reason I put it on my TBR, is just, I think that I'm going to be in a mood for just sort of stuff that just helps me feel the tension in my shoulders. Relax. And then lastly, before we jump back into holiday reads, I have a new Sophie Jordan, Lessons from a Scandalous Bride. It's in the Forgotten Princesses series. I don't know what number it is. I think I found this at Barnes & Noble. It looks new. Oh no, you know where I found this? I found this at Half Price Books, not at Barnes & Noble. It has maybe been read once because there's one break on the spine, but it's in great condition. And I need a new Sophie Jordan series. So I'm adrift without a Sophie Jordan series. And if you followed this channel for a while, what I usually do with Sophie Jordan's series is I pick a series and then I read that series to completion, but I read them very out of order. I sort of just find them where I find them. If I go to Half Price Books in February and this is number 4 and I see number 2, I buy number 2 and I read it next. And that's just kind of how I'm consuming Sophie Jordan titles. But so this is a first one in a new series. It's about Miss Cleopatra Hadley, who went from poverty to plenty after she figures out who her real father is. And that sounds lovely. And she's going to have a relationship with a Scots nobleman, Lord Logan McKinney, who needs a title hunter with a substantial dowry. Perfect. Can't wait. Now we're going to shift back to some more seasonally, holiday-y, Christmassy reads. Starting with Christmas Remembered by Tomie dePaulo. I've actually already read quite a bit of this, and I've actually already read this whole thing before. This book came out, I think, in 2006, and I was working at the indie bookstore, and it was just lovely. I read it, I think, at work over the course of a few nights, and it's a collection of like short story memoirs of Tomie dePaulo, who is the artist we all know from Stregonona, or oh my word. I mean, he's written so many books. I wonder if there's a list. I don't think there's a list because he's written so many. But like The Legend of Bluebird, and so many beautiful stories of my late 80s, early 90s childhood that I really adore. And each chapter is a different Christmas he remembers, well illustrated. And they're really beautiful. He was born in the 1930s, so his first memories of Christmas are in the 30s and 40s. And it's just wonderful to sort of walk through these memories with him. I've been reading it slowly because I'm just reading like a story or two a week. But now that it is December, I'll probably pick up the pace a little bit, just because I feel a little guilty hoarding this library copy. My next 3 books are books I'm not going to read in their entirety, but I will probably read part of in December, and they're all books I've already read. So the first is Walking in a Witchy Wonderland by Julia Cross. This is the Stay a Spell series sisters. So Wolf Gone Wild is the first book in that series. I love that series so much. I don't think I'll read all of them. There's 1 novella and I think 4 short stories, if I remember correctly, in here. Maybe 5. Let's see. She doesn't have them numbered and I don't want to count them right now. But I think there is a short story for Nico and Violet. There's one for Mateo and Evie. There's one for Devraj and Isadora. And then there's like an intro to Livy and I'm forgetting her guy's name, the Grimm, Gareth. And then there is a short story or a short novella, like a 100-page book in here about JJ and Charlie, who are these human guys that they are good friends with and know they're witches and are cool about it. And so I'll probably pick 1 or 2 of these and read them this month just to get me in a witchy Yule-tide feeling. And they're just fun and spicy and short and lovely. Next, my copy of this book is an absolute disaster, but it's My True Love Gave to Me by Stephanie Perkins. This is a collection of 12 young adult short stories that all have to do with holiday season. So there's like several Christmas stories, there's a Krampus story, there's New Year's Eve story, there's a Hanukkah story, there's a Yule story, and they're really lovely. And they're by a lot of really famous authors. So there's Rainbow Rowell, Kelly Link, Matt de la Pena, Jenny Han, Stephanie Perkins, David Leviathan, Holly Black, Gail Forman, Myra McIntyre, Kirsten White, Allie Carter, and Laini Taylor. My favorite is Laini Taylor's The Girl Who Woke the Dreamer, which I know I reread last year, and I reread that one most years. I used to reread this book every Christmas, but the last time I did it, which I think was like 4 years ago, I was kind of like, I'm getting sick of some of the stories. And so now I just pick 1 or 2. So I'll probably reread The Girl Who Woke the Dreamer because it's so freaking beautiful. But then I'll probably pick 1 or 2 other ones that I feel like reading and reread those as well. And then lastly, this is very random, but I have this wonderful book, The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady by Edith Holden, which is beautiful. If you love a beautiful book, might I recommend this? It is a literal diary of this woman who was kind of a naturalist and also a wonderful artist living in England in the Edwardian period. I'm not exactly sure what years off the top of my head she was. But I had been reading this in order and then realized that I don't want to do that. So I literally just read the November chapter this month. I don't even know if I finished it, but I read most of the November chapter this month. One day when it was lovely out in November, I sat outside and read while my kids were playing, which I don't do very much anymore because my kids are old enough to play outside by themselves. But we're having a large coyote problem right now, so I have to be out there. But I decided I'm going to read the December chapter this month, and it'll be beautiful. Look at how good she is at illustrating these birds. Oh my word. And it's really just a collection of quotes that she has found, like poetry and different things. And then also she talks a lot about the weather and what's going on. So December 9th, we woke up to a storm of whirling snowflakes this morning, the first snow this winter. The storm was soon over, however, and it was followed by bright sunshine and a sharp frost at night. So it's really just like a normal person's diary. And December is very short, so I'll definitely finish it. Some of the months are much longer, probably because she was out more and illustrating more, like the summer months. But yeah, that sounds like a lovely little thing to do one day when it's like it is outside right now, which is snowy and very cold. And that's my TBR for December. I hope you found some maybe Christmassy or Yule-y or wintry books on this that you might be interested in reading as well. You will notice that I didn't talk about what I got from Book of the Month this month, and that is because I think I am skipping this month. I'm trying to be very mindful of the books I am getting right now because I have a TBR of I think over 70 books at the moment. I would need to actually count them, and it's too many books and it's stressing me out. And so while I used to be very like, oh, I should give this a try, I should give this a try, I think I am going to pare back the number of books I get from Book of the Month and only get books when I really am interested in them. There was a thriller this month that I can't remember the title of, but I'll put the cover here, that sounded okay. Like, I could always read a thriller. It didn't sound like it was too gory for me or anything, but then I was thinking to myself, I don't really need this book. I don't really need this book. I have piles of books all over my house right now, both read and unread. And so I am going to try to sort of pare back the amount of books I am getting and really focus on what I want to read. I think the hardest thing for me is Aardvark has a title that I really wanted this month, Canticle. And I still really want to read that book, and I will probably put it on my Christmas list for my husband. But if Book of the Month had gotten that, I would have 100% bought it, read it, probably loved it because it seems like a book I'll really like. But because it's through a different books club service, I didn't have that option, and that's okay. I'm just going to go into 2026 with a little bit different of a mindset when it comes to buying books. I still have not read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. Obviously, I didn't finish The Lightbreakers yet, so if I feel an inkling to read some Book of the Month this month, I have 2 titles that I can work off of. But I think I've really settled in the fact that Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil is going to happen in January. that book's not going to happen in 2025. And here we find ourselves at the end of the video, to which I say, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you are most excited to read this December. Or if you don't want to write words, I would love some snowflake emojis. We have a foot of snow. I'm already sick of it. It's early December. It's going to be a long winter for me. And with that, I say, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'll see you soon.